Thank you all for staying on and welcome to the last session of the day. In this session, we'll not just look at healthcare alone, but also the associated and interlinked sectors. And we'll be looking at it from the perspective of both the startups and the investor community. Our topic, as Michelle mentioned, is healthcare with a human touch. And understandably, so a lot of it will be related to COVID. And as the pandemic has accelerated the need for digital transformation across healthcare and financial services, including fintech and insurance, I would like the panel to sort of examine this transformation, if any, what it has brought about in South Asia, looking at both Southeast Asia and India. We'll also look at what are the investors looking out for, and have startups been able to have startups risen to the opportunity. And just to understand the opportunity, adding on to some of the numbers that my colleague Andy had mentioned in the um, previous panel, if you just look at Southeast Asia alone, and I'm sure India numbers are going to be much higher, fueled by the rising incomes and a huge middle class that's emerging throughout, a huge middle class is emerging throughout Southeast Asia. And by this year end, Southeast Asia's middle class will rise to 350 million consumers with over $300 billion in disposable income. I'm joined by a bunch of panelists, and I would like to sort of start off by asking each of them to sort of take a minute and introduce themselves and their respective firms. Um, who wants to go first? Nihuing, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ni. I'm leading our InsurTech and emerging markets investment at Allianz X. Allianz X is the digital venture capital arm of the Allianz Group. We're investing in digital tech growth companies and have since 2019 a 1 billion euro fund dedicated to this type of investments. Looking forward to our discussions today, and over to the next panelist.
Dr. Pinak, please go next.
Hi, thanks, Joji, and thanks to DealStreet Asia for having me on this panel. I represent Health Quad. Health Quad is a transformative healthcare fund coming from the family of Quadria Capital, which is one of the largest private equity funds in healthcare space in Asia today. Health Quad looks at slightly earlier stages of investment, especially focused on transformative healthcare through technology and digital health. Now we are investing from our second fund, which will be a $130 million fund, looking to invest anywhere between 5 to 15 million in opportunities in the Indian healthcare ecosystem. Some of these, the funding could also be in Southeast Asian companies, but with predominant India focus.
Yeah, Renaud.
Thank you, Georgie. It's a privilege to be here today. I am with Bima, where I'm the managing director for Asia and the global head of growth and marketing. Bima is an insurtech pioneer which has leveraged fintech to build a health platform for the emerging middle class across several regions. We are in 9 countries in 3 regions: Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. Very excited to be part of this panel and learn from the other panelists.
Dakan.
Thanks, George. So good afternoon. I am Dakan, the CEO and founder of Medici, a full stack health tech platform in Vietnam. So at Medici, our goal is to provide affordable and accessible healthcare and insurance product to every Vietnamese using technologies.
Yeah. Thank you all. And let's sort of get on with the discussions. And I would like to start with, like I mentioned earlier, start with the pandemic. That's like the biggest issue that has shaped all our lives over the last 12 to 18 months. And let me come to you, Dr. Pinak. In terms of the pandemic has changed the narrative for telemedicine in a country like India. We've seen a lot of startups there witnessing a huge amount of traction. For example, just like a Bangalore-based MFine, they have sort of added over 4,000 doctors to their platform. They're doing over 12,000 consultations a day, and a lot of remote monitoring platforms, examples like Dozy, they're all seeing massive traction. But just wanted to ask you, can health tech startups sort of step in and take the load of the country's healthcare system?
So Joji, I think the pandemic has been a kind of a game-changing event in the whole digital transformation of healthcare. We started our healthcare investing in the digital space in 2016. And at that time, people were quite skeptical about how digital health will move over the next few years. We tested waters with our first fund, which did remarkably well. But what the pandemic did was, crunch the 3 to 4 year timeline into a 6-month timeline, accelerating the entire digital transformation, especially in the Indian scenario. Obviously, that meant there was a fillip given to the things like telemedicine, e-pharmacy, e-diagnostics, point of care testing. All of that got a significant fillip during the pandemic. I think what we are seeing today is that more or less this is going to stay. Now, on your specific question on whether this is going to take the load of the system, healthcare already burdened healthcare system, I think to some extent yes. Especially, what we are seeing is that point of care will move closer to home, and this is to stay. Digital or telemedicine will kind of replace chronic treatment revisits to the hospital. So the hospital OPD load will go down, and then of course the overall ecosystem will be created to kind of seamlessly facilitate payments for all of these systems. Now, it's still a work in progress. I'm not saying that it is in any way getting completed in the next year or two, but over the next 5-year horizon, I see this all happening and coming together. The question about telemedicine, whether it will remain at the same peaks that it saw during the pandemic, I think it probably would follow a demonetization peak that we saw for digital platforms in India. After the demonetization, there was a sudden peak, and then it came down. But of course, it did not reach the baseline, and from there onward, it continued its linear growth. That's the trend that we are seeing in the Indian context, and that's going to be the way it will evolve over the next few years.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Pinak. Dakang, let me come to you. In your email signature, I've noticed this line. It says that healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. We strive for one day to make that right available, affordable, and accessible to every Vietnamese. Just want you to take us through the big picture scene in Vietnam when it comes to affordable, accessible healthcare, and how has the pandemic changed this?
Yeah. So, well, like compared to the regional healthcare industries, so the average doctor to patient ratios in Vietnam is one of the lowest in the regions, like 1 to 1,000. And healthcare quality is also inconsistent from rural to urban areas. For example, like a patient has to travel for 45 minutes, wait in a long queue for another 45 minutes, just to have a very short checkup with a doctor in tier 1 hospital. This is not a rare case in Vietnam. So just like in second and third tier cities, so doctor and hospital visits are always the last resort, only when symptoms turn serious. And on one hand, like COVID-19 has placed more pressures on hospital, with many like overwhelmed with patients or forced to lockdown. But on the other hand, like, it makes people, even those in rural areas, more open to digital health solutions. As health concern rise, people are becoming more familiar with online health consultation and are buying more and more drugs and supplements online via telehealth consultation with doctors.
Interesting. Renaud, a related question to you. The Delta variant slow vaccination has caught much of Southeast Asia sort of off guard. In that context, like during the pandemic, telehealth sort of offered a bridge to care. But going forward, does it offer a chance to reinvent virtual and hybrid in-person care models with the goal of improved healthcare access, outcomes, and affordability?
Yes, I think, Joji, as you said, the pandemic has certainly been a significant factor in people's lives. Of course, it's been a tragedy. And I think almost all of us will know someone in South Asia or Southeast Asia who has been touched by it. And we must acknowledge that. It has also been a driver of change, as Dr. Srikhande was saying earlier. And we've seen people adopting telemedicine. We've seen people understanding the relevance of insurance at rates which were much higher than we've seen in the past. One of the things which I think has happened is that the pandemic, together with some infrastructure developments which have happened in the last few years, have driven this big change. We've seen a big wave of fintech in the last 2 or 3 years in South Asia and Southeast Asia. With the adoption of fintech, particularly mobile wallets, has come financial inclusion and an ability to pay for things which was not possible before. With the pandemic has come a realization that you need insurance. With the pandemic has also come the trial of telemedicine services. So up to this point, I'm in complete agreement with what you said. However, one thing which we must be cautious about is that when it comes to healthcare, people want the human touch. I don't think people are ready yet for healthcare to be delivered by a robot or even a chatbot. People do want better healthcare. People want specialist care, especially for their children or for themselves as they grow older and have chronic diseases like heart disease or diabetes. But for those situations, they would want a human being to deliver the healthcare. Now, one experience we've had here is with COVID. And what we've done is we've developed a COVID clinical pathway, which was developed by our chief medical officer in London, taking the best of knowledge from across the world. This was then codified using our technology. And then that technology has augmented our doctors and nurses who are in the front line across countries in Asia. In Indonesia, the Ministry of Health selected us as one of the telemedicine firms to provide COVID care for those who had tested positive and were isolating at home. And this is a recognition of the quality of care that we've been able to bring.
Got it. Renal, I'm going to come back to some of these points that you mentioned in a bit. But before that, let me just sort of relate it to the pandemic. Nee, let me come to you in terms of for Allianz X, and I think in 2019 that the size of your fund was increased to over 1 billion euros. And how has COVID changed your investment thesis?
A great question, Georgie. I wouldn't say that the pandemic has changed our investment thesis, but rather reinforced our investment thesis and confirmed it over what we've seen over the last years now. As mentioned previously, we're investing primarily into digital growth companies, and we're focusing on business models that are purely tech-based and digitally delivered, and which have a connection to hardware solutions or offline solutions, but which offer more the link to offline solutions rather than being an offline solution themselves. And I think this investment thesis has proven very successful throughout the pandemic, as the rise of digital solutions and the need for them has increased significantly, and thereby also the need for capital. And I think the increase of our fund right before the pandemic was also a really timely move, as we've seen with one of our portfolio companies represented by Reynolds here. Bima has also enjoyed the latest funding round last year, reinforcing that message.
Yeah. Dr. Pinak, what about Quad Health? Because you're the largest specialized health tech VC in South Asia. So did the pandemic bring a lot more companies into the health tech space looking for funding? And what are some of the notable trends in the companies, in the deal flow of the companies that approached you for funding through this time?
So I think, overall the country as India has seen a huge amount of funding in the digital healthcare space over the last 6 months. Just to put it in context, 1.1 billion was invested in India in health tech space in the first 6 months of year 2021, and that's more than the entire almost one year plus of last year. So the interest has been significant. That said, PharmEasy was our first unicorn that emerged within this year, and its valuation tripled in less than 3 months. So it's a huge momentum that digital healthcare has received over the last few months, I would say. What I see is that a lot is happening in the e-pharmacy space with consolidation, with the companies actually companies like PharmEasy, rolling up much larger companies than itself, like ThyroCare, into its fold. That's become kind of that has had a significant impact on how people are viewing digital health and its investments in digital health. So I think that's the major trend. We have seen a huge deal flow almost on a daily basis. We see early stage companies, at least 2 or 3 companies reaching out to us for funding. A lot of them are in telemedicine space. Unfortunately, that is getting now crowded, and there is the differentiation seems to be losing out there. So unless and until you have a very differentiated model of telemedicine, it's very difficult to pick a winner. The other thing that is definitely happening is a lot of focus on data analytics, real world evidence, which is coming to the fore. I think those are companies that are looking to leverage the data that is getting created of this and kind of digitization of data that is now starting to happen in the Indian context, to actually leverage real world evidence for utility by multiple stakeholders. Third, of course, is what we see in what is happening in digital therapeutics. I think a lot of, especially chronic disease management, being supplemented by digital therapeutic apps, which promise to focus on both wellness as well as lifestyle changes and drug compliance to help patients manage their chronic diseases better. And I think that's something which is going to certainly stay and increase as we go forward. And in fact, we would probably see what is happening in the Western world happening also in the Indian context, where large pharma companies will partner with digital therapeutic companies to actually create a co-branded product. And that's something which I'm sure that's going to happen in the Indian healthcare space. The last, of course, that I would want to highlight is the health financing piece, which is coming together with multiple range of products being offered, which include right from crowdfunding platforms to digital lending platforms for healthcare financing, and lastly, of course, bite-sized affordable insurance products coming out, which would be able to cater to the needs of the healthcare financing.
Got it. Dakang, let me come to you. Medici was founded in 2019, and at that time, no one expected the pandemic. How has your journey been over the last 18 months, and how has the company evolved? And can you also tell us, in terms of in a country like Vietnam, what percentage of healthcare spends has shifted to virtual health?
Well, yeah. So about like this time 2 years ago, so we start off as a telemedicine service provider. We soon partnered with the Ministry of Technology and Communications, so in the National Digitization Program, to pilot telemedicine in rural areas at the very early days. And the partnership built our credibility and set the cornerstone for Medici's penetration in our targeted market, rural areas. And soon after that, so fueled by our corporate health screening service, mostly for factories and industrial zones in second and third tier cities. So we have like rapidly expand our operations to 31 cities and provinces in Vietnam. And earlier this year, 2021, so we rolled out a marketplace for drug and supplements, and also like our entrance into the insurance market with our very own like insurance broker license in Vietnam. And I can tell like the health tech industry has evolved greatly during COVID-19. But like healthcare is among a few industries that have grown during the pandemic in Vietnam. And as healthcare becomes a top spending priority, even among low tier and working classes, people are increasingly willing to pay extra for quality, credible healthcare services. Moreover, like as Vietnamese grow more tech savvy, consumers also become more interested in health tech services, such as like teleconsultation and e-pharmacies. And I can tell looking back to when we started 2 years ago, telemedicine seemed uncertain and futuristic, even to my own family members.
Interesting. Yeah, agree. Just a related question, Nee, let me come to you. When you look at it from the perspective of, or from an investor's perspective and from Alliance, in terms of where do you think we are in terms of virtual health solution? Is it like, do you think, do you agree that there's a mega shift towards virtual health, or are we still sort of far away from this to happen? Because for it to really take off, you need sustained consumer and clinical adoption and accelerated redesign of care pathways to sort of incorporate virtual modalities.
Absolutely. I think if you look at just from a pure number perspective, we have a lot of investments in the telehealth space. So when we just look at look at how the numbers throughout the pandemic and where they are nowadays, for instance, 1.5 years into it, then one trend that we can observe is that the consumer behavior has changed throughout the pandemic. And the big question is it here to stay, or will it fade away once the numbers are lower, the risks are lower? And I think we can confidently answer this question with a clear yes. I think the consumer has got used to the convenience of virtual health solutions, especially for chronic diseases and for the treatment of those chronic diseases, as well as for preventive healthcare. I think those are the 2 points that we've observed clearly. And thankfully, one good thing of the pandemic was that the trend that has been in the works for the last years has been sparked by the pandemic, and I think has changed for good.
Yeah, Renaud, just coming to you, there's also a big gap between consumers' interest and actual usage. From lack of awareness to telehealth offerings on education and different kinds of cares that can be met virtually, understanding the insurance coverage, these are some of the drivers of the gap. So what can sort of be done to bridge this gap, and what are you doing from Bima's perspective?
Joji, our approach can be summarized as reduce the barriers and increase the relevance. If you consider the emerging middle class, I think you said that it's about $300 billion of disposable income in Southeast Asia alone.
Yeah.
Now we know that about 10% of this gets spent on healthcare. But what we also know is that we are looking at a consumer here, particularly in the emerging middle class, who has an irregular income, who has financial risks. And these two things put together create some barriers. Not only do they create barriers, they also mean that when the person does spend that 10% of their income, it's often not enough. And a health crisis can become a financial crisis. So what we've seen is that if you systematically take away these barriers, you make it easier for people to come in. Because people have adopted mobile wallets, leveraging fintech to give them a way to subscribe to a combination of insurance and telemedicine, making it flexible so that people can customize their payments based on their income pattern. It could be weekly or monthly, it could be irregular, but having a system which is flexible for that irregularity. And then using technology learning systems that adapt the subscription frequency to people's income pattern. So this has been our approach to lowering barriers. Earlier in the previous panel, Gustav spoke about, there are some people who are do-it-yourself people. So we have digital channels where they can do it. But for the vast majority, they want a little bit of explanation. So we have other channels, including telesales channels and field channels, to lower that barrier. Then let's speak about increasing relevance. Now, the pandemic has certainly increased relevance, but I think there needs to be a sustained effort beyond that to increase awareness of people's health risks. See, here in Asia, whether it is South Asia or Southeast Asia, there are some risks which come with the territory. We know that there are risks to children's health, and we know that any parent, no matter what the income strata, is looking for children's specialist care, pediatric care. We know there is a preponderance of women's health issues. We know almost all of us are at risk of diabetes, risk of heart disease, and this is not helped by our diet, and that gets worse as you go down the income strata towards the emerging middle class. And then, of course, COVID. And so our approach here has been to offer people relevant specialist care. I told you earlier about the COVID clinical pathway, which was developed in London and through our technology deployed by doctors and nurses in the countries. We are doing the same for each of the major specialist care that people are asking for. Someone said in the earlier panel that, what we need is technology which turns one doctor into 100 doctors or one nurse into 100 nurses. We need the same for specialists. One specialist needs to become 10,000 specialists, and that is possible through technology while still having the human touch. So that's been our approach: reduce barriers, increase relevance. And as a result, we've seen our FinTech for Health business growing by more than 100% year over year in the recent period.
Yeah, thanks, Nara. I just want to spend some time on the health tech with the human touch and like take forward some of the points that you talked about. And again, Dr. Pinak, let me start with you. One of the areas that sees very little attention is mental health. We've seen so many reports on how mental health has become such a big crisis, especially during the pandemic. And it's safe to assume that most of the small towns across South Asia won't even have like a single psychiatrist. Most don't have mental health providers, especially looking at children. So there's a huge shortage here. What is the opportunity for startups in the mental health space?
So, Georgie, I think you've made the point absolutely right, which is mental health will emerge post pandemic as one of the very, very important and challenging areas for us to deal with, and it's going to stay for a long time to come. And the way it is evolving is that especially people who are locked at home, children who've not been to school and interacting with their peers, are going through a psychological stress, and this will require some form of handling. Now, the more than the availability of psychiatrists, I think in the Indian context, and I guess it is true even for the Southeast Asian context, is the fear or the hesitancy by people to approach the doctors or psychiatrists for help, especially in the kind of social stigma that is associated along with mental health makes it difficult for people to approach psychiatrists or psychological counselors. So in that context, telehealth or mental health and wellness solutions actually provide a very, very important solution, trying to break that taboo or stigma by keeping this an absolutely confidential online consultation model. So which is going to be a very, very important going forward. I think there are a couple of companies in the Indian context, Inara or Visa, who've received the initial set of fundings. But I think this is going to grow over the next few years and become a very big big market. Now, the question, of course, is that will these companies be a part of the platform play, or will they be able to do them by themselves? Is something which we need to look at. My guess is that at some point of time they will be subsumed as a platform play rather than trying to build it all along on their own. The other issue which we also need to look at is, substance abuse and how telemedicine solutions could be help solving some of the substance abuse, problems, especially given what Pear Therapeutics has done in the US. These kind of companies are we don't see them as yet in India or Southeast Asia, but this is also a huge opportunity that can be leveraged by technology.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Pinak. Dakang, let me come to you. After telemedicine, marketplace, and insurance, is mental health an area that Medici plans to address?
Yeah, well, so our experience. So there is a blend between a typical telehealth and mental health, especially during the pandemic. So telehealth not only takes care of physical health, but also brings a sense of security and a peace of mind for patients. So I can give you an example. So we have one patient, like a 65 years old woman from Ninh Bình, like a 30th city in Vietnam. So during the teleconsultation, you know what? She spent 1/5 of the time asking doctors about her diabetes symptoms, and the rest of the time speaking about her loneliness when her children live far away, how she missed her grandchild, and why she couldn't sleep. You know, like she called us every day for 2 weeks. But we know that our jobs, our responsibility to take care of the patient, no matter it is a telehealth or mental health call. And our doctor and medical team are always there to listen to and consult her. And after 10 days, so she was able to sleep well. Her blood sugar also decreased right after that. So we really see a strong synergy between telehealth and mental health. And we are excited to explore this avenue further in the future.
Yeah, interesting. Dakang, I just want to ask you another question, not related to mental health, but before Medici, you were with Grab, so you have seen the gig economy in action. Now across Southeast Asia, not just Vietnam alone, but all of these markets, and even in India and China, big questions are being asked on the welfare of gig economy workers. Be it fintech, health tech, or insurtech. When you talk about health tech with a human touch, it has to address the medical accident earnings protection for this group of people. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think I can tell the situation is improving. So, at Medici, we provide B2B services, and many of our corporate customers work with us to design special care packages for the employees and what they call partners. We have been working with the companies to offer health checkups, COVID tests, teleconsultations, and health and accident insurance. These services are brought even to the part-time employees and partners like delivery workers to ensure that all of them are in good health condition, especially during the pandemic. And at Medici, we have our own insurance agent network who are our partners, and engaging and taking care of them are our top priorities. So thanks to our healthcare ecosystem, we are the first and only companies in the Vietnamese insurance market can offer annual health screening and telehealth to the agents. Many of them for the first time in their life have e-health records and a personal doctor to reach out 24/7. So I can tell the situation is getting better.
Yeah. Ni, you, Allianz, you are an investor in Gojek, and you worked with Gojek to offer insurance to the drivers, and the insurance is payable at a daily rate. And this appears to have helped maybe thousands, if not millions of families to sort of have access to health insurance, especially in Indonesia. How has this partnership worked so far? And can you sort of replicate this with some of your other portfolio firms in the region, like, Milvik Bima, WeLab, Halodoc?
Absolutely. I think just for some background here, Allianz has been serving the emerging consumers customer segment, as we call it, because we see very specific features that that need to be catered for, and for many years. And the partnership between Allianz in Indonesia and GoTo now has been ongoing for quite a while now. even before we invested as Allianz X into the company, our investment only reinforced that the partnership and the creation and the service that we've done for especially the informal sector. And we recognize that the need of gig economy workers or informal sector employees for health protection, and that's why we teamed up with GoTo to have access to a larger customer base and be able also to bring healthcare solutions to a larger customer base. And the same, moving on to our other portfolio companies, has been done also with Halodoc, for instance. We're an investor in Halodoc, that's a company that's actually also working together with Gojek to provide similar solutions that Dick mentioned, like COVID testing, COVID vaccination schemes that they're both providing together, and that they're delivering at the point of care to consumers.
Yeah.
And last but not least, sorry.
Sorry, please continue. Yes, please continue.
Sure. To cover off maybe also the other two companies you mentioned, Bima and Wheeler. I think Renan can speak more about Bima, but with intensive partnerships, especially in Sri Lanka, for instance, and also in we've worked also with Bima in Indonesia to be one of the telehealth providers listed by the government together with Halodoc that I just mentioned. And with WeLab, we've increased the other side of the coin of our discussion, which is more the fintech side and the ability to pay healthcare solutions via digital wallets and digital banking solutions, moving on to wealth management.
Yeah, got it. Renaud, sticking on to the same issue on the gig economy, what's the potential, not just for gig economy workers, but even for the rural population? What's the potential for virtual first health plans in Asia? Is it too nascent a space?
I think what we have to keep in mind is that the gig economy workers are part of this larger group, which is the emerging middle class. Going back to the 300 million, 30 billion opportunity that you spoke about right at the start. So this is a large and growing market, and the way we are seeing investments go not only into the super apps and the ride-hailing firms, but into all manner of specialist vertical e-commerce firms, gig economy employment is only growing. So that's one. Two, we are seeing regulations. Recently, there was something in China. There's something brewing, we believe, in India. There was a statement by the Prime Minister in Singapore. We are seeing regulations coming in, which is going to improve the income of this group of consumers. Now, incomes may not be high today, but this means that the incomes will grow, and we've seen historically incomes grow very fast. That means that needs and aspirations are increasing rapidly, and I think this group is extremely aware of their financial risks and their health risk by virtue of the accidents and all the other issues which come in this profession. Now, they therefore want better service. They want access to insurance. They want access to doctors. They want access to specialists for their family. But they do not want to get this from a robot or a chatbot. Now, what are the alternatives? We were speaking to a person who signed up recently on our platform in Indonesia, and we found that the typical first source of primary care was the neighborhood chemist or pharmacist, the person who sells them medicine. And that's the person they consult on a regular basis. When they want a specialist, they can't even get access to a good one. And so by codifying the knowledge of global specialists and bringing it to them, we've been able to serve people at scale. Last year, we saw a 63% increase in uptake of these services across South Asia and Southeast Asia. So the bigger picture that we see here, I think, is a seamless ecosystem of healthcare services and insurance. You buy into the insurance today, and that ensures that if there is a health crisis, you are taken care of, your family is taken care of, your health needs are taken care of. And on the same platform, you're able to get access to the health services that you need.
Got it. Yeah. Dr. Pinak, what about India? Are you seeing any trends, especially in the in terms of health tech solutions for the gig economy there?
Yeah, I think we've seen a spate of corporate wellness companies coming up in the last few months. In fact, they are now starting to mature a bit, the market. But I think all of them have to some extent now started focusing on the gig economy workers, whether it's the deliveries, whether it's the the ride hailing apps, all of them, they have started to partner with these companies to provide health solutions for these for this group of people. Now, what we see is that this is a huge market potential, and companies will come out with innovative solutions which will focus on them. But also there are, looking at it from the other side, there are the new age insurance models which have come in with bite-sized insurance to cater to these workers. And I think overall opportunity is humongous, and it is just a matter of time before it will be exploited. Uh, what it also means is that, and since most of these gig economy workers are already on apps, their ability to interact with other apps is also very high. So that is something which people are leveraging for accessing the healthcare for these workers. So I think that's the take.
Yeah, I also want to spend some time looking at some of the other issues, starting with, for example, private public partnerships and the regulation aspects. Dakang, let me start with you. What sort of private public partnerships are at play in bringing when it comes to health tech with a human touch?
Yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned before, so there is a growing demand for digital health solutions, even with people in rural areas. However, right, it's not easy at the beginning. So consumer may have issues as simple as the phone not having enough storage to install a new app, or the internet speed is not good enough to have a stable video call with doctors. And to more complex and social issues like how can they trust the doctor via an app? That's why we need private-public partnership. So at Medici, so we have been working with local authorities to bring our service to each and every family. So from our side, Medici, so we have to optimize the app, build a brand, work with top doctors and hospitals, and build a network of influencer doctors. On the other side, the local government officials work closely to ensure the population is telehealth ready. So by using, like the loudspeaker still happening in Vietnam to spread awareness of our services. And they visit each family to have installed the app, and they provide a place where people can reliably connect to the internet. And the model has been working. So people trust the government. So they trust, and more importantly, they use our digital health services.
Yeah. Renault, has the pandemic therefore made governments more inclined to forge partnerships? The context of my question is both the Pakistani government and even in Indonesia. They use Bima to offload their health services by providing teledoctor consultations or doctor chats to customers.
Yes, as I spoke earlier about our partnership with Ministry of Health in Indonesia for COVID care, that's one example. We are also in talks with government bodies in other countries. For example, there's A2I in Bangladesh. We're in talks with NGOs. For example, there's Access Health, which is active in both South Asia and Southeast Asia. And the models which are being looked at here are public-private partnership models. From the point of view of governments, what we can do is complement their services. We can serve as a buffer to overflow in cases like the pandemic, but also in the long term, we can have a positive impact on people's health. There's a program which we are working on right now, which is to do with prenatal care, which has been shown to have a huge impact on the well-being of mothers. And then, of course, a healthy mother is a healthy family, and a healthy family is usually a family with a better economic situation. But there's a bigger point here, I think, also about private-private partnerships, because you can't do this by yourself. What a consumer needs in this space today is not only insurance and telemedicine, but also access to labs for blood tests, access to pharmacies, access to delivery services, access to hospitals. We're now seeing these home health kits which can be used by people for chronic disease management. Our approach has been to curate these partnerships and offer them to consumers through our health platform.
Yeah, that's a point I want to touch upon again, if time permits later. Nee, let me come to you. As the from an investor's perspective, as investments into health tech companies increase, so does the pressure on these companies to innovate and find winning models that will sort of provide sustainable, that will sort of give them sustainable competitive advantages, because it's a quickly evolving space. So does that mean it's advantage for the consumers, patients, people in rural areas or the gig economy workers? Because we're going to see increased innovation in virtual care, in delivery models, and also more affordable solutions.
Absolutely. I think healthy competition is ultimately always good for the consumer. That's something I think history has proven as well. And aside that, in the context of healthcare and healthcare delivery, it's the pressure helps especially public healthcare institutions to use private healthcare providers to complement their solutions, because what we've surfaced in most public health care systems have recognized that the better way is to partner with other institutions in public-private partnerships, rather than building the solutions themselves to best cater the population. And I think that's the topics that Dick mentioned or Reynold mentioned. They are a testament for the trend in the space. And aside that, we at Allianz, for instance, have teamed up with Bima and the German Development Agency to develop healthcare solutions on a global basis as well, and to deliver them to emerging consumers. So I think ultimately, all these efforts will have from all three areas, from private healthcare providers, from public healthcare systems, and from investors, will have a very positive impact on the consumer. And the efficiency gains, they will also be shared, I believe, with the consumers, with higher quality and lower prices.
On the regulatory front, Dr. Pinay, what are some of the changes that you have seen in India that has been brought about by the pandemic? And do you think that some of these restrictions will return to, some of these easing of these restrictions? Will it go back to the pre-COVID-19 normal, when the public health emergency situation is back to normal and thus slowing down growth?
So I think these the regulatory changes that have been instituted by the government during the pandemic are more or less now systemic in nature. So it's very unlikely that they will roll back, given the focus of the government today on digitizing healthcare. They themselves are in the process of building the National Digital Health Mission with a full stack digital platform. And they have solicited the help of private players to build that platform. So the likes of the e-pharmacies, the telemedicine companies, the data management companies, all of them are participating in that process to actually build this entire platform. So I don't think that we will be going back in any case. I think it's just the way forward from here on. During the pandemic, of course, the entire regulatory framework on telemedicine was regularized by the government. A lot of ambiguity existed for almost 10 years on what and who can prescribe on the telemedicine platform, what should be the method of prescription, and whether that prescription is considered valid or not. All of that ambiguity was removed at the beginning of the pandemic by the new set of regulatory guidelines that came out from the government side. Similarly, on the e-pharmacy side, a lot of question marks on what the digital prescription should look like, and who is in position to serve that digital customer and that digital prescription. All of that has been now kind of cleared by the government, and I think these are very, very fundamental changes that were really well intentioned at that time, but will continue to be in place in the near future. The government's own programs, including the Arogya Setu app and the app for vaccination, which is the COVID app, actually help people to get onto app kind of a platform. And that has also been a huge trend towards digitizing the way people access care. So I think numbers are humongous. There are almost 300 million people who actually registered on the CoWIN platform to get CoWIN. So I mean, these are game-changing kind of numbers for platforms and the people's ability to access healthcare through digitally. So these are fundamental changes, and I think they are going to be there to stay for sure. There is one area which, of course, the government has not been able to really have a clarity on, which is data protection and data privacy, which is still, as Nee pointed out, it is still not clear as to who owns the data. As of now, the providers hold the data, and it's just a matter of time before the patient will be able to own data. That is still not yet clarified by the government.
Got it. Health tech apart, one of the common themes that connects the panelists here is some of the related sectors, be it fintech and insurance. In that context, this is both to Renault and Dakan. There are not many companies that are doing full-fledged health services such as telemedicine, along with the insurance proposition. So, is the integration of micro insurance and teledoctor services more suited for emerging markets when compared to the developed world? I would like both of you to take it one after the other. Dakang, you want to go first? Dakang, you're on mute.
Yeah. So not many telemedicine companies provide insurance products. However, we observe that many insurance or insurtech companies are adding telehealth to their services. I see there is a strong synergy between healthcare and insurance, especially since healthcare has become a top concern since COVID-19. So doctors or medical assistants can support insurance customers with health concerns, as well as recommend suitable insurance products via teleconsultation.
Renault?
Our take on this is that we've seen the consumer point of view on this evolve over time. The initial issues that consumers face in this space are access and affordability. And if you are trying to do only telemedicine or only insurtech, you are essentially solving one of these without solving the other. In some cases, we are seeing people who primarily focus on one, bring in partners and offer add-ons or additional options for the second. But our take is that these two things are separated only because historically these have been two different industries which couldn't come together. In the digital space, if you are trying to solve the consumer problem of access and affordability, it's easier to solve that problem if you bundle the two things together. By combining affordable insurance with access to high quality healthcare, we are helping to solve that issue for consumers. 75% of our customers are buying insurance for the first time, and 100% of them are using telemedicine for the first time.
Got it. So is that what got China's Credity's fintech investment fund to invest into Bima's last funding round, considering what you're doing in some of the emerging markets?
I can't speak for them, but our point of view is that our model appears to be quite similar to the model of startups that they had invested in China and which they helped to scale. So from our point of view, they've been an attractive and strategic investor to have. They're very focused on hybrid models that fits our strategy. So we have learned a lot from their experience investing and scaling startups, similar startups in China.
Yeah. Dakan, you got a permit recently for offering insurance services in Vietnam, and that's a market in which only 23 companies have got an insurance broker license since 1993. Yeah. In terms of your business model, will it be centered around the fact that it will require a very low buy-in from your customers? And also, what are the other points, pain points in the traditional insurance business, which you think like a startup like Medici can help address?
Yeah. So with the license, it shows our commitment to the market. So only companies that passed on of the very high requirements from the government received the license. And Medici is one of them. With a license, we can legally distribute different insurance products from different companies across our platform. We can also legally support our customers with claim management, as well as co-develop insurance products to fit our customer needs. I mean, we do things legally, so it's very important. So our customer and our agent can trust Medici. In terms of pain points, so I think there are three main pain points in the market. So first is a lack of transparency. So patients who often have to struggle with complicated insurance claim processes. So at Medici, so we have a team of medical assistants to support customers with claim management on how and where and when they can be paid by the insurance companies. As well as via our platform, customers are able to check all of the claim progress. Second, trust in the market has been stolen by insurance scams, especially in rural areas. However, our customers can trust Medici influencer doctors and the team because they trust the doctors. And last is a lack of customization for buyers' needs, especially for buyers in second and third tier cities. So at Medici, we own the health data, we own the distribution, so we know what our customer really needs, so that we are able to work with the insurance companies to customize product to fit our customer.
Got it. Dr. Pinak, a big picture question to you is that health tech companies can't sort of grow in isolation. Then now the challenge comes in, how do you sort of get them to partner with others in the ecosystem? It can be from, what I mean is partner with pharmaceutical companies or insurance businesses, or even to hospitals, pharmacies, clinical care facilities. How do you sort of address this?
So I think, as a health tech investor focused on healthcare in specific, both the parent fund, Quadria, and us already have a large ecosystem of healthcare companies across India, Southeast Asia. And that's what we, help our portfolio companies to leverage and partner with. So almost all of our health quad companies today are working with our portfolio companies in the Quadria health quad stable. So that's something which we are really, really proud of. But also we help our portfolio companies get to the table other partnerships in the outside the ecosystem, which we are connected to because of the premier healthcare status that we have. Now, as you rightly pointed out, for companies to develop, the first and foremost thing that they need to come out of their mindset is that they are going to do everything and anything under the sun, because that is that will help, or that will limit their ability to grow fast. So partnerships are the key to rapidly scale and succeed. And in that context, creating a platform play for co-adopting other startups is one of the ways they can rapidly build scale. The other, of course, is partnering with the larger established players like insurance companies and pharma companies to help create niche products which could be distributed by the larger players. So whether it's in the form of digital therapeutics, where you create co-branded products for distribution, for management of chronic disease, or where you have data leverage, where you can work with insurance partners for better clinical underwriting skills that the insurance can come to the can have from you, or creating bite-sized insurance products to be able to serve the larger market along with so those are products that we'll have to see how the startups can evolve and can partner with the larger groups. Of course, there is also the partnerships that exist, which can take a more strategic nature at a certain point in time, where these larger companies could potentially be buyers of the startups, and hence one has to weigh it carefully as to what kind of business integration that you want to do with the startups, and and which can technically also be used by the larger players to gulp up the small fishes.
Yeah. Dr. Pinak, like as an investor, when you sort of see companies in the health tech space or insurtech, or do you view them as tech startups with a subscription business, more like a SaaS model?
So we've seen all. So we divide our companies into three buckets. One is the digital healthcare models, which are purely digital in nature, either running on algorithms or AI-based concepts. The second is tech-enabled models, which are basically where technology is an enabler in providing healthcare. So it is not the core to the business, but it is very, very important that because without technology, the companies may not be able to scale effectively. And the third is the technology-led models, which are the SaaS-based models, which the companies create SaaS-based offerings for B2B / B2C consumers.
Yeah. We sort of, close to, we've already hit an hour. So I just want to spend maybe a couple of minutes for a quick round on the road ahead. Let me start with Dakang and Renaud. Again, to both of you, like when it comes to micro insurance providers, what happens? Do you see these companies riding on platforms like the Grabs, the Gojeks, the GoTo here, or the C Group or Ola and Flipkart in India, to tap into the populations which are sort of known to be insurance hours? Or do they stay and focus and operate in just the background, or do you think that you will have to build out more like a traditional insurance business, that is, build out a consumer brand?
Yeah, so I think there are different ways to acquire customer. Either rely on other platform or build a brand and our own distribution channels. But for Medici, so we are building our own distribution and consumer brand.
Renaud?
I think definitely build a lasting consumer brand, but probably not in the traditional ways. A lot of the traditional focus on building a brand has been, advertising driven and sort of buzz driven. What we see is that the three drivers necessary here are trust, relevance, and differentiation. I think relevance is pretty straightforward. On differentiation, we are finding that you have to have something that is different from your competitors on either product, service, or technology, or the combination. And often it means continuous innovation on the fintech side, as well as on the insurtech and health side. Trust is the key, and hence we own and operate the entire consumer experience and journey from the purchase to the service delivery to the claims. We settle claims in 3 days, and that's been a huge driver of trust and word of mouth. And that's how a brand gets built in our sector.
Got it. Nee, when it comes to startups in both health tech and fintech space, what happens when some of the larger platforms, such as ride-hailing companies, food delivery companies, e-commerce firms, increasingly start offering these products and services?
If you look at one of our portfolio companies, GoTo, the way how we think about is that neither GoTo or another investment of ours on the African continent, Safe Boda, which is operates a similar business model to GoTo. We don't believe that and they don't believe themselves that their expertise is in developing health tech solutions. Hence, why they prefer to partner with companies like Halodoc in Indonesia, that's partnering with GoTo, and the same applies for Safe Boda in sub-Saharan Africa. And I think that's something that all the largest players have recognized. This health tech is a very specific area that needs expertise, both from the regulatory side and the human touch from the healthcare provider side. And that's something that you need laser focus to grow and to scale, and hence why most big players prefer to partner. And I think that's for Dick, for example, is a really good situation to be in because it's more a partner for health, and from a consumer perspective, consumers don't care who is the healthcare provider. They care about the seamless customer journey, be it offline or online, and hence why we will see, I think, all healthcare providers, be it public healthcare service, private healthcare providers, or go-to as a facilitator coming together and delivering that proposition to the consumer.
Yeah. Dr. Plak, let me come to you in terms of when you look at Southeast Asia versus India, while health tech, especially from an investor's perspective, has been super hot in a market like India. Are you sort of surprised that it's not sort of seen similar growth and adoption in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I think it is slightly surprising, that Southeast Asia may not, they have similar challenges, whether it's accessibility, affordability, quality of care. All of these challenges are exactly the same as what you see in India. But at the same time, I think the adoption has been slightly lower. One of the problems probably is about the addressable market and the ability of the addressable market to use healthcare solutions effectively. I think that is where I see the challenge. Other than that, I think Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam are very, very ripe countries to actually take up these solutions very, very easily.
My last question, Ni, in terms of some of the trends that you're seeing, especially with your portfolio companies in Europe, do you see some of these coming to Asia?
I think maybe two trends that we've observed that we see moving over to Asia is one on the data protection side for e-health records. That's something that's especially when you're based in Germany, is a very, very important topic, and the German data protection law is notorious on a global basis for its strictness, and I think that's something that will create trust for consumers when you have appropriate data protection for e-health records, and that's something that we observed as well, that it's a differentiation factor for healthcare players in Asia. And secondly, I think working together with the government in creating e-health regulation is something that we see moving towards the Asian continent as well. As an example, in France, the government has chosen to outsource the whole vaccination program to Doctolib, which is a digital tech health tech company in France and in Europe, and that's something I think is a testament. That the sector has been maturing and is now working together with the government and teaming up with the government.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the audience questions in the discussion. My final question, therefore, is to Renaud. So, Renaud, for Bima, you operate across several African countries, and do you think that some of the trends that you're seeing in Africa can be replicated across the markets in Asia that you operate, be Bangladesh, Cambodia, or Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka? So anything that Bima is bringing from Africa to implement here?
Africa is where mobile wallets first took off. Africa is where Bima got started, with its pioneering insurtech model. And that's also where our fintech for health approach evolved because of the emergence of the mobile wallets. Which we have then successfully brought into South Asia and Southeast Asia. Now, in many ways, we find that South Asia or Southeast Asia are leading the way on certain trends. Financial inclusion and growth in incomes is going up. With that comes the need for more advanced specialist services, which we spoke about, and that led to the creation of our health platform and our platform partnerships. Now, that's being rolled out to other regions like Africa. So I would say innovation comes from everywhere. And by being present across multiple regions, we are able to spot it and scale it very fast, which gives us a unique advantage.
That sort of brings us to the end of this engaging session. Thank you all for staying on with us across the 3 sessions. We will have the complete transcripts and the videos of all the sessions available on our site within the next couple of days. Thank you to all the panelists, Renald, Dr. Pinak, Dakang, Ni. Thank you all for joining us. We had such a varied set of panelists from different countries: Europe, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka. And to all of us, to all our readers, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this. And I would